Welcome to the England Rugby Pod. Thanks for downloading episode 81. The touring squad for South Africa has been announced, and in true Eddie Jones fashion, there's a number of unexpected selections and exclusions. You're listening to the England Rugby Pod, the rugby podcast that believes England will win the World Cup in 2019. Hey guys, welcome back. Firstly, we're both very aware that it's Thursday. The squad it's Friday, in fact. The squad was announced yesterday. And in true England Rugby Pod form, we failed to deliver on our promise of a prediction. But as it turns out, that's probably not the worst thing because we'd have got it very wrong. I'm, of course, joined by Dan. Hi, mate.
Hi, mate. I'd have been nowhere near.
No, I think we got it completely wrong.
It was in our defence, and this is a pretty weak defence, but we've both came back from a sort of long stag do, and I've been feeling
a little worse for
average
wear.
At best, a little worse for wear. So we needed a few days to recover, but
exactly. But there's lots to talk about with this squad. I mean, it's not what we expected, but it's definitely interesting.
Mate, I need you to talk me through this. I need you to talk me through two things. I need you to talk me through the squad, and I need you to talk me through the England training squad, because I don't get it.
What do you mean? What do you mean by?
I don't get a lot of the players. Like, genuinely, I'm amazed by some people who've been left out. I don't really understand the whole not eligible for selection. I don't understand why certain people are not eligible for selection.
So let's just clarify. This is what the BBC have put on their article about the squad announcement. So the whole not eligible for selection thing may be some weird way that that they've just chosen to kind of word it. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm not.
Oh, sorry. I think it was worded not considered.
Not considered for selection either because of injury or being rested. It says. So I guess that would suggest that they are theoretically all considered for selection on that list. They've actually updated that when we looked at this earlier. It didn't say that. It just said not considered for selection. They've added either because of injury or being rested. They've clearly heard your concerns, Dan.
Well, good, because
I think that probably answers your question.
Well, yeah, I guess to an extent that the not eligible for selection bit does answer my question somewhat. So let's take this two parts, right? Because there's the training squad and there's the South Africa squad, right?
Yeah.
So let's have a look at the South Africa squad first. And let's start positive. There's some names I really like the look of in there. I love the fact Danny Cipriani's been called up. I really like that. I think he's been the best fly half in England this season. I love the fact Dan Robson's in there. I think he's really earned it.
Just before moving on from Danny Cipriani, because firstly, we both said in the last episode we'd like to see him called up, but we weren't convinced it would happen. And we thought that Eddie Jones had kind of already... we thought we'd made peace with the fact that Eddie Jones just didn't like him, and it was never going to happen. I think we may have said those exact words. And actually, Eddie's obviously conscious of the fact that he's said certain things in the past, not least of which, and I think we agreed, was that Danny Cipriani is the kind of player that needs to be starting or not at all. And actually, Eddie was called on exactly that, and he said, "Look, these things change." And it was quite interesting. He said, things change. 3 games ago, I was the best thing to ever happen to English rugby. Now, apparently, I'm the worst. But he basically said of Cipriani, look, lots of people talking about him getting a recall. He doesn't see it that way. This is the first time he's calling him up. So as far as Eddie Jones is concerned, he's a new player in some ways. And he's being picked on merit, picked on form. The other thing I thought was really interesting is that... he says that it's up to Cipriani to now show that he's the best 10 or 15.
15 would surprise me. I don't, but especially the reason 15 surprises me. So, what's the one thing that everyone sort of would say Danny is one of Danny Cipriani's weaker part of his game is his defence.
Yeah,
and Eddie Jones is always on about having a rock at the back.
I 100% agree. I mean, I found it weird. I don't know why Eddie Jones just doesn't strike me as the sort of person that would throw it out there. I mean, maybe just to get people guessing again. I don't know, force the Mike Brown debate again or something. I don't know. But they were his words. He said he needs to prove he's the best 10 or 15. So it's definitely a turnaround from his point of view in terms of the way he's. It was only 2016, I think, when he said that Cipriani needed to be, first or not at all. And maybe he is still actually looking at him that way. We've talked about Ford being out of form. Farrell is so good at 12. Maybe he is thinking, let's see if Cipriani can be England's number 1, number 10. Because I wouldn't hate to see Cipriani and Farrell at 10, 12.
No, not at all. I do like it. And actually, what you've said, the stuff you've said that Eddie said, I agree with it all. I'm like, yeah, fair enough. He has every right to change his mind. Things do change. It is up to Cipriani to prove himself. I do like that. But so let's stick on the 10 for a bit. George Ford still in there. I kind of get, because there's parts to him. I think he's got a lot to prove.
100% right. I mean, George Ford needed to go. His form, he's been great at times. When England are on the front foot, we've said it before. He's been one of the best fly halves in the world. We've also talked about the fact that you can't rely on that, which is absolutely right. But I don't think it warranted dropping him. I think he's got a lot, as you say, a lot to prove on this tour, and I think that there is a danger that at the end of this tour, if he hasn't stepped things up, then that may be the last we see of him.
It may be. I mean, I just don't know where Eddie's head's at. So you look at 10, and who's been an ever-present, sort of as part of a squad, not yet cap, but as an apprentice, I think it was, Marcus Smith. Now, here's the thing I don't get. I don't think Eddie picks. It's almost as if Eddie doesn't pick at all based upon Premiership form, because Cameron Redpath, who comes in, and from what little I've seen of him, he looks like a talent, like genuine talent at 10. But no way is he ahead of Marcus Smith. I really don't understand that selection.
I mean, unless Eddie Jones simply believes what he's said in the past, which is that Marcus Smith just isn't there yet. Which I know we discussed last week, and we said, look, he's doing it week in, week out for Quinn, so why not on an international stage? But maybe it's a physicality thing. Maybe he doesn't want to put a fly half out there that's going to get targeted.
Cameron Redpath surely would. He's young. I think he's younger than, or he's certainly of a similar age.
Is he bigger?
I don't know that actually. Like,
I know very little about Cameron Redpath, so I think he's kind of, maybe it's simply a case of, he said, look, I've got my 2 people I'm looking at fly half in Ford and Cipriani. I've got Farrell as an option at fly half. I'm going to take another one because you kind of just have to in case of injuries. But since it's not going to be, since he's not likely to get a lot of game time, why not try someone else out? Maybe it's as simple as that.
Could it also be that obviously he's the son of Brian Redpath, the famous Scottish 9, I believe? Could it also be almost let's not let Scotland steal him?
Maybe just get him a cap. I mean, you wouldn't put it past Eddie. I mean that's probably quite a nice interlude into Brad Shields, who of course is coming over from New Zealand, Hurricanes captain. He's had quite a career. They won the title in 2016 under his command. They of course drew with the Lions, didn't they, last year? Again under his command, he won the world championship, the under-20s world champs in 2011. I didn't. He did, but he was part of that team. But he was never capped for the All Blacks, and so maybe he's been included. Just to sort of say, right, get him one cap and that's it. He can't go back.
Well, I don't think that's necessary, because it's coming over to Wasps anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
This whole saga was really weird. He's coming over to Wasps. He's said he wants to play for England. By the way, I think the guy's absolutely brilliant. I think this is a massive addition to England.
Yeah.
He's coming over, and the whole saga was, it's not really worth going into, but New Zealand Rugby released him, which was good of them, but I think they're sort of obliged to, because Brad Shields has specifically said he wants to play for England. He's going to be playing in England.
Yeah.
And then New Zealand Rugby say they're really disappointed by the RFU. It seemed a bit.
I know. Well,
it almost seemed a bit petulant.
Like you say, the laws are clear and allow for exactly this scenario. Is that just New Zealand? Just being a bit pissy about it.
Yeah, it's New Zealand acting like the Aussies.
Yeah, well, they're not a million miles apart. I mean,
good geography.
Is this a psychological advantage for the All Blacks? We didn't pick him; he wasn't good enough for us. But England, you go for it.
No, I don't think so.
Will they? Maybe not from an England point of view, but what about from a New Zealand point of view? Do you think they would go into a game against England where he's playing and thinking you've got someone that we didn't think was good enough?
I don't.
Or do you think they're kicking themselves, going, "Why didn't we cap him?"
I think that's more likely.
Which is awesome. It's so interesting, and this surprised me. So Eddie, and it may just be that it's him just sort of protecting his senior players at this stage while decisions are still waiting to be made. But he described him as a backup. He'll be a great backup for Chris Robshaw.
For what, Brad Shields?
Yeah.
Is he not a better player than Chris Robshaw?
We've both said we think Robshaw's probably coming to the end in terms of, yes, he'll always be a workhorse and all those sorts of things. But I would have thought so. I'd have thought, unless it's just Eddie Jones, mind games again. I would have thought that Brad Shields is coming in with a great shout at owning a shirt.
I think so, and I'm really looking forward to seeing him play. And the other one in the back row I'm really looking forward to actually is Jack Willis at Wasps. I think his form's been absolutely brilliant.
Another of the uncapped. Which poses the question which you love to not really answer, which is, what about Don Armand?
Where the bloody hell is he?
As far as I can tell, he's not injured. Did he just have a shocker against Ireland that we didn't really pick up on?
No, he didn't.
He's not mentioned anywhere. Like you would think that he would at least be kind of included in that list of people not considered because of injury or or being rested. He's not. He's nowhere to be seen. He's not in the training squad. So I don't know what's happened there.
I just don't get it. I don't understand why he's now so far out favoured. Because you look at someone like Jack Willis, and he's clearly been picked on form. His form for Wasps has been brilliant. I think he deserves his call up 100%. But then if you're looking at form at a Premiership, Don Armand deserves it. Clearly, Eddie, there's just something Eddie doesn't see at international level.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, we've said the same thing about Cipriani, and he's finally being given his shout. So his shot rather. So I kind of it's one of the ones that there just doesn't ever seem to be an answer to. Every time we think we're getting somewhere, he kind of changes his mind again.
It does keep you guessing. It does.
Maybe that's part of the plan. He doesn't want the rest of the world to go, right. We've got 18 months to study the England side that we know we're going to face in the World Cup. Maybe it's about just saying, no, I'm not going to give you that opportunity. We've got so much strength in depth.
Then on the flip side, I'm not going to give the guys an opportunity to play together.
Well, yeah, true. But what I mean is maybe he's thinking, well, I don't want him for this tour, but actually, why does the BBC need to post that he's part of the squad?
Yeah,
I'm reaching because there's got to be a reason, and I'm trying to come up with weird Eddie Jonesisms that might describe why he's nowhere to be seen. But I don't know. I guess we just keep watching this space and see what happens, because he's still around. He's not gone anywhere.
Yeah. He's still about. And whilst we're on back row, if I'm Ben Curry, I'm thinking I'm a bit pissed off right now. Tom Curry's been injured most of the season. Ben Curry's been playing playing pretty well, actually. So Tom Curry's been picked based upon last time basically involved with the England squad, which I think is fair enough. I think he did. Did himself.
Yeah, it did
really well.
He did really well. Yeah, we couldn't stop banging on about him.
Yeah, and so it's like fair enough. And maybe it's that. Maybe Ben Curry hasn't stood out quite as much, but he's selected ahead of Tom Curry for Sale. There's a lot of. To me, there's quite a lot of contradictions in this squad, but I don't completely get. So the players not eligible for selection, not considered, or however how we want to word it. injury arrested. So someone like Danny Care's clearly been rested because he's not injured.
Yep. JJ is injured.
JJ's injured.
Jack Noel rested.
Jack Noel, no, yeah, I think rested. I completely get that.
Watson's
injured. But Owen Farrell, why has he not been rested? Maybe that's the captain thing.
Yeah, and not just because they want to take a captain. I now question whether Dylan Hartley is going to come back.
Yeah, I do as well.
Let's be honest, if Eddie Jones is thinking Dylan Hartley is still my man for 2019, then he doesn't need to take Owen Farrell to be the captain. If he's thinking, actually, it's time and I'm making a change and Owen Farrell is going to be my 2019 captain, then you send him. Because he's going to be in charge of these guys for the next 18 months. And I wonder if that's the reasoning.
So that's logical to me, but our logical arguments before have not necessarily matched Eddie's way of thinking even closely. So,
but that's what we're here to do.
Yeah, exactly. Luke Cowan-Dickey's got a good chance here.
Absolutely. I mean, this is kind of answering the fans' kind of cries as well, isn't it? I mean, we're big fans of Dylan Hartley, but on form, he's not one or two. And yet he's always there, and we've always sort of said it's the captaincy thing. So that's my guess. Anyway, we'll see what happens after the tour, and I guess the next thing will be the autumn internationals, including New Zealand, won't it? So it'll be interesting to see. That will be the. I mean, it shouldn't be. It should have been the Six Nations, but it wasn't, and so now that's going to be the sort of the signifier, I think, for 2019. Of what the squad's going to look like with a year to go. Itoje, why is he not rested?
I thought he needed a rest.
I don't feel like he needs to be there.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So unless
maybe that was injuries. Maybe that was injuries because I think Courtney Lawes is injured, isn't he? Cruz is injured.
Yeah, possibly. Is he? If our previous theory is correct, is Itoje maybe being lined up to be the sort of the vice captain? Perhaps.
I have no idea, mate. Yeah, he could be.
Maybe that's another reason
because he's
definitely rested big names.
He has rested big names.
So it's not like he's afraid to do it. So maybe he see, or whether vice captain or not, maybe he just sees him as one of his leaders who just needs to be in and around. I mean, we may find that some of these bigger names don't play a lot. He might take Itoje out there and actually not play him as much as you would expect, and sort of give him his rest out there. I mean, I'm reaching again for reasons because we were pretty convinced that he'd be one of the ones that stayed home. But he's also a lot younger. As we know, body can take a bit more punishment when you're in your early 20s.
It can, and I also think there's a big thing to be said about let's get England rugby back on track. I mean, maybe it's been derailed somewhat. Maybe it's been overly exaggerated how much it's been derailed, but there is an argument for let's get England rugby back on track. So you do have to take a few big names, and in the forwards, let's face it, probably the biggest name is Maro Itoje, even if that's just from hype. And in the backs, the biggest name's Owen Farrell. Maybe there is that element to it as well.
Yeah, we're not just going to leave all of them behind. So here you go, have two of the best.
Yeah, exactly. It could well be along those lines. Overall, I am quite excited by the squad. There's a few people who I just think and this is no disrespect to them as players, but so like I mentioned, Cameron Redpath, Ben Spencer, the scrum half at Saracens. I don't really understand the value of them being there.
Well,
I don't. In my head, I can't believe they're going to be considered for the 2019 World Cup.
Well, so hang on. So Eddie learnt a lesson in the first game of the Six Nations, which is that two scrum halves isn't enough. You need three.
Yeah.
Because you need two, and an injury can happen. And he didn't have a third. So obviously he called up Wigglesworth because he's an experienced player. He's played for England before, and and because of his experience, he's someone who can probably come in and kind of learn the ropes quicker than most. Does that necessarily mean he's number 3? Probably not. We've
well, why is he put down on the list? Why is he put down on the list as being rested then?
What, rested or in? Well, because maybe he's not
when
been dropped
someone
yet.
like a Don Armand isn't.
Well, we don't know. That's the thing. But I don't think he's been completely ruled out yet. I think this is probably a bit of a testing ground. But Dan Robson, we've talked about as the likely number 3, if not higher, with Danny Kerr, who we're confident is being rested, and Ben Youngs, who's obviously going. So Youngs, Kerr, Robson is what you'd probably expect to see. Do you take Wigglesworth as a 4th? I kind of feel like...
No, I don't think you need a 4th.
Well, no. So, but what I mean is, do you look at Wigglesworth as number 4 in line, or do you say, actually, there's no point in looking at him as number 4? Let's give someone who's slightly less known, hasn't had the exposure and might turn out to be, a bit of a superstar. Take a Ben Spencer and see what he can do.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things. So when I say I don't get it, I'm going to contradict myself a bit here. I'm going to be a bit Eddie-ish. I'm going to be a bit Eddie-ish. Maybe because Cameron Redpath has been playing a bit more at 10, and Sale are losing. I think they're 10 at the moment. AJ McGinty. Actually, although AJ McGinty's staying, maybe he's thinking actually next year Cameron Redpath and Ben Spencer are going to be playing a lot of first team rugby. And they are 2 who potentially do have the potential for 2019. I hope he's looking at it like that, rather than looking at it, then, it'd be good to get them capped.
Yeah, it's just difficult to know, isn't it?
Mm.
I like it. I like that it's not all black and white, and I like that he keeps us guessing because it keeps things interesting. As you said, we completely misjudged what we thought we'd see in this selection, and yet I think we're both pretty excited about what we're going to see. So,
Well, the Danny Cipriani thing really cheered me up. I really am glad he's going. And I mean, it's...
Yeah, go on.
Sorry, I was going to say, so the rumour is as well, which I think will be good, is that Danny Cipriani's off to Gloucester.
Ah.
That's the rumour, and I think that'll be good for him, because Gloucester have definitely had an improvement this season. Ackerman seems to have been doing good stuff for them. He'll play a lot of rugby. I'd like that move, and that to me, I just like the whole Danny Cipriani thing overall. I like the sound of. Nathan Earl for Saracens. Yeah, I want to see more of him. So I'm quite excited about him.
He played against the Barbars, didn't he? That's his cap.
Yes,
so it's obviously not an official cap. I thought he looked pretty useful. I thought he took him to Argentina, but obviously not. I'm
I think he took him, but didn't play him.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing him too. One we've not mentioned, and we both were convinced needed to go, Manu Tuilagi.
Manu.
What's going on
there? I think he just thinks he hasn't had enough game time, or maybe he thinks, so this is, again, me completely guessing. Maybe he thinks, you know what, he's had so many injuries.
He needs the rest.
Let's not throw him straight in the deep end, because he could still be a big part. Let's let him have a full pre-season. Let's let him have a good rest, a full pre-season.
Well, Eddie's made no bones about the fact that he thinks Manu Tuilagi is a key person when on form to beat the All Blacks. So I'd be surprised. Yeah, I'd be surprised if he just wasn't considering him from a selection point of view. So let's hope that is the case. I mean, it's a shame. I would have liked to have seen him, but obviously, yeah, the worst thing would have been if he'd come out there and just got injured. And we said every time, but that really would have been the end. Obviously, Big Billy's back.
Big Billy is back. That's awesome.
Which is great, as long as he doesn't get injured. But then, is he not in a similar boat to Manu?
Yes. Yes.
And probably a bigger loss if something was to go wrong.
I think so.
Oh, I say probably. But definitely maybe, a bigger loss.
Yeah, maybe he's had that bit longer.
Yeah.
That bit more. I don't know. I'm guessing.
I mean, Manu's obviously been off for longer over the course of the last however many years it's been. I'm just thinking recently they've been on a pretty similar scenario. So maybe you're right. Maybe he's just thinking, actually, I've got less options at number 8 anyway. But I've got plenty of options in the centres. Let's not take any chances where we don't have to. But at number 8, we do have to, because obviously Nathan Hughes is injured. Who is our other number 8?
Well, we've got Sam Simmons who's still in there. Nathan Hughes has been injured.
I mean, obviously they're taking Ben Earl, who's a number 8.
Yeah.
So they've got I don't expect to see a lot of him. I think I just hope Billy's on form, fit, firing, and doesn't pick up any more injuries. He's had enough.
Let's hope so.
He's got his injuries out of the way. He's now going all the way through.
Yeah, he'll just go strength by strength up to the World Cup.
Let's hope so. I mean, this would be the first ever Test series win in South Africa for England.
Yeah, I think we drew before in 2000 or something, didn't we?
No, I said this would be the first ever Test series win in South Africa.
Oh, yes. No, you're right. It would be the first ever win. And it'll be interesting. Do you know what we should do? Because we said we'd try and name the squad. And do you know what? I'm with you. I'm really glad we didn't, because it would have just been a waste of everyone's time.
Are we about to make another promise we're not going to keep?
No, possibly.
Awesome.
But that's just how we roll.
Exactly.
What might be good to do early next week is if we put together, based on the squad, we put together who we think our starting 15 would be.
Nice. I mean, I don't think it's going to be massively different to a regular starting 15, but I guess it's more about who are the people that are being rested, who's the cover, and what's the right way around to do it. So, that would be a good one to do. And guys, obviously, if you've got opinions on that, let us know. We will either agree with you or we'll at least mention what you would do differently. In other news, which is obviously great for England, Scott, is it Wisemantel or Scott Wisemantel, who's the attack coach that worked with Eddie with Australia and Japan. He's been brought in as the attack coach for England.
I think we needed that.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it was pretty clear that something was missing, and Eddie's been the attack coach himself, and whether or not you think he's good enough to do that job, I mean, he did it pretty well for the first 18 months or so. He needs to be able to oversee everything. I don't think the head coach can be a specialist as well, because they're just missing other things then. I agree. I think it's good. I think it's really good. So hopefully that was the thing that was missing a few months back, and hopefully we can go out and do a job in South Africa.
Yeah, it'll be. And what we got to bear in mind, the reality is with sort of playoffs. Obviously, we've got sort of Newcastle, Wasps, Exeter, and Saracens all involved in the playoffs. The reality is there's probably likely to be some injuries, so there probably is likely to be changes to that squad as well.
Yeah.
Which will be. I mean, let's hope that's not the case.
And let's hope
it's like I think it's very likely that would be the case.
You don't want any big names getting injured, or if they do, maybe Farrell gets a dead leg and Itoje gets a dead leg, and they're forced to rest.
Yeah, they get a nice rest, and then Manu comes in or whatever.
Well, It's an interesting squad. I think it's going to be a really interesting tour. England have a huge amount to prove after that Six Nations. They, you said it before. They need to get back on track. I have no doubt that they're capable of doing it. You have a bad few games if you do it in a tournament like the Six Nations. It throws you, and as shocking as fifth is, they have no choice now but to see it as a lesson and learn from it. You wouldn't want it going into the competition, but it's what happened. So they need to learn from it. They need to turn things around, and what better opportunity than in South Africa, where they've never won a Test series. Yeah,
exactly. And I looking at the squad, and like I say, there are bits I don't get about it, and there are bits that I'm a bit annoyed about. Most notably, the omission of Don Armand.
That, Dan, is why you are not the England head coach.
Well, maybe we're missing a trick there. That's what I'm starting to wonder. But overall, I'm pretty excited by this tour. I'm pretty excited by the squad.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to putting together a starting 15. I think it'll be very interesting, or a starting 23, because it's the.
What do you reckon we go? 15 or 23?
23, because I feel like these days,
because finishes is such a big part of any game, isn't it?
And I think who you select to start determines who you select to finish, depending on the kind of game plan you're going for. So I think it requires a little bit more thought. So I think let's go with 23.
Cool. And we won't chat about it. We won't discuss it between you and me until our next pod, I think.
No, well, as in what? Yeah, as in we're going to do our own.
Yeah, we'll
each
both
come to the table
one.
with our own one. Oh, interesting. Okay, sounds good, guys. Like I said, send over your thoughts on that if you have any. If you're listening. And of course, please share with friends, family, and all the rest of it. Get on iTunes, rate us, review us, as always. Continue to listen, please. We want to get as many people listening as we can. Now would be great, but obviously, by the World Cup next year, we want to be smashing the numbers. So we really appreciate your support, obviously. And hopefully that will continue, and hopefully more can join us. You can get in touch with us on social media at England Rugby Pod. You can email us, as a few people have done recently, and that's englandrugbypod@gmail.com, and we've got a website, www.englandrugbypod.com. So we look forward to chatting to you again next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Our numbers are actually creeping up, which is really great news. And actually, our engagement, you guys engaging with us, is creeping up as well. And that's really cool. We really enjoy that. So please do keep the engagement. Please do sort of pass it on. It makes it hopefully more fun all round, because this is what we're all about. Is sort of chatting with you guys and getting your opinions as well.
Exactly. Cool.
All right. Thanks very much, guys.
Take care.